Yeah, bro.
Rahul.
What?
We just had Lenny talk about her fears. Oh, here, Nikhil, come. Nikhil. I'm so glad you're going first. I'll go that side and listen.
So women are observing the route, Lani. Intro.
Hello and welcome to the South Zone Sports Climbing Competition 2023. This is the lead finals round for women here in Bangalore. And today we get to find out which one of our 8 finalists will progress onto the nationals round that's happening later on this month right here in Bangalore. So we've just finished the men's lead qualifications, and what a performance that was from everyone. My heart was in my throat. We're going to be streaming the men's lead final at 1 p.m. too, so we've got an action-packed day ahead of us, and now it's time for the women's lead finals. I'm your host, Lani, and I'm joined here by Nikhil Fernandez, who's an avid, strong climber himself. How are you doing, Nikhil?
Hi, good morning. It's a beautiful morning.
It is.
Yeah.
Right next to Cubbon Park.
Yeah, right now we are watching the women. We are observing the women observe the route right now. So since there are only 8 of them, there is no qualification round for the women. So they actually go straight to the finals.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about the observation period. What does
So
this mean?
the goal of this is the women want to see the route and they're going to discuss with each other how they're going to climb it. So, they have the option to talk to each other. As you can see, they can discuss how they might want to climb the route. They want to see the higher parts, how they might do it. And I think an important part is where they would rest, figuring
Yeah.
out where to rest, where to clip from. So,
Isn't it amazing that like in climbing you get to observe something together?
yeah.
Because it's something that you're trying to beat each other at,
Yeah,
but also
Yeah, and,
It's
and,
so
and it is so
beautiful.
interesting because like you're saying, they do have to like try and do the best on their own. But despite that, like each and every climber, I'm sure, supports each other and they want each other to do
they
well.
do. Climbing is such a wholesome sport, and
Very
it just
wholesome.
shows.
Yeah.
And I was gonna ask you, maybe somebody is gonna give a wrong beta.
Oh yeah. So just one of the men's qualification just
Uh-huh.
happened, right? And they were talking about how initially when they read the route, they thought the beta was one thing, but when
Okay.
you go up there, a hole might not be like you thought it was. So you might have to do it very differently. So it is
Yeah.
a lot of improvisation as well and figuring out things
Exactly.
on the spot. So the discussion, it sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it works.
So right now we're looking at
The sub junior.
sub-junior women's lead
So
qualifications.
so what
while we
happens
wait
is
for the
in
women
in,
to
in
start.
sub juniors, they don't clip the rope as they go up. It's on a top rope.
Okay.
So for the women's, they'll have to be clipping the rope as they go up.
So that has to happen in order, right?
Yeah.
If that doesn't happen in order, do they get disqualified?
So you have to clip as you go up, and if you don't clip, you only get points up to where you clipped your rope.
Okay.
So the women, as you can see, have a good 20 minutes of observation, and if you can see, you are allowed to touch whatever you can reach from the ground. So they're allowed to touch the starting few holes of the route, but beyond that, they're not allowed to climb up. And
Okay. Can you explain a little bit more about lead climbing for us?
yeah.
Like,
So
what is the point system like?
So the goal of lead climbing is you have this rope which is tied to yourself, and you have these bolts which are in the wall, and there are quick draws hanging from that. So as you climb up, you want to take the rope with you. You want to clip the quick draws as you go. So climbers get points based on how far they go. So each hold has points. There's a point system attached to it,
Okay.
and you get points for a hold when you are able to be stable and make a move while holding that hold.
Okay. So the
And-
more holes you hold, the more
Yeah.
points you get,
Yes,
basically.
and the maximum number of points that a climber can get is when they reach the top. So when you reach the top, you also have to clip the top part, and that's when the route is finished. That's considered a top.
Okay.
And also, climbers only have 6 minutes to finish the route.
Nice. So the running order for today's event is Janvi up first. Then we have Jayati, we have Kavya, Lakshmi, Purvi, Sonali, and Sunita. Have you spoken to any of these athletes in advance?
Yeah. So I've spoken definitely. Janvi is a very young climber. She's just turned 17, so this will be her
Oh, okay.
first year participating in women's. Until now, she was in juniors, so it's going to be fun to see.
Well earned graduation.
Yeah, a lot of these girls are, this is maybe their first or second nationals competing in the women's category, and there are going to be a lot more women in the coming years. And it'll be good
Absolutely.
to see that as well,
Mhm.
because there are a few women only right now who are competing on a professional level in
Yeah.
climbing right now. That's why we are going straight to finals. So we are seeing the sub juniors routes right now. As you can see, she's having some difficulty getting to the next hold, so she probably had to go with the right hand.
Mhm. We watched the men's qualifications round as well for lead,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that was
very
insane
exciting.
to watch.
Yeah.
This is my first competition that I'm watching live, and my God, what a
Yeah.
thrill!
Yeah, and there was some good response about the route too, that it was a good level of difficulty.
Mhm. A lot of these holes are new as well, brand new. Nobody's ever touched them,
Yeah.
so less amount of chalk and friction
yeah,
available at the
some
minute.
information about the holes. You see that holes have different parts. Some of them are shinier, some
Mhm.
of them are textured. So holes have textured parts on them which are good to hold, but they have slippery parts which won't be as good to hold.
Okay.
And then you have a variety of holes from crimps, which are the smallest holes. You can see the holes with a hole in them, those are pockets, and the larger things are called volumes. So
Mhm.
when we refer to the volumes, we're talking about the larger holes.
Okay. What is your favorite type of hold? Would you say?
As somebody who prefers outdoor climbing to a more indoor competition style, I like crimps. I like the feeling of like
Uh-huh.
pulling and using small holes.
You like the feeling of uncertainty
Yeah, I would
and
say
just falling at any given point.
yeah. Yeah, it feels strong, when you're using small holes and pulling yourself up. But small footholds are possibly the worst.
They really are.
Yeah.
Like, I think my least, like, I love climbing. I'm obsessed. I think my own climbing journey started like less than 6 months ago,
Yeah.
and I'm obsessed with the sport.
Yeah.
I have to say, I think slab climbing is my least favorite thing because you can just fall at any given moment.
It's all about the footwork.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a common misconception that a lot of people have, is that climbing is all about upper body strength.
Mhm.
Once you start climbing and once you like figure out, first of all, it's such a technical sport. It's all about technique and skill.
It really is.
And
yeah.
footwork is pretty much the most important thing that you could learn as a beginner in climbing.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people come in with a lot of upper body strength and assume that it
Mhm.
might be easy, or yeah.
Exactly. Before I started climbing, one of my friends introduced me to it, and he was like, "Shh, come," and I was like, "I have no upper body strength." And
Yeah.
anytime I now introduce other people to it, the first thing they
That's
say
what
is, "I
people
have
say.
no upper body
Yeah,
strength."
yeah, for sure.
I mean, you require some strength, but
Yeah.
it's a lot to do with balancing your own body weight.
and what's so great is, especially with women, and if you can observe this in climbing, is that women actually tend to use technique a lot more than men, because
Mhm.
they use their feet much better, and they use their hips a lot better in
Yeah.
climbing, and men tend to like to use their upper body a lot more.
Mhm.
But what looks better of the two is definitely the more technical and the more footwork oriented climbing looks a lot more
Absolutely.
graceful on the wall. Yeah,
Yeah, mobility is a big thing, isn't it?
for sure. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
a fellow athlete who just went in the men's
Yeah.
qualification round, Loki.
Yeah.
He has recently started taking yoga lessons. He was telling me when I was speaking to him earlier, because hip mobility is such a big thing, and he's reached a point in his climbing career where like it just wasn't enough.
Yeah,
So he's taking
important.
yoga lessons.
Yeah, I think climbing generally, right, you need to be as all-rounded as possible. You can't
Mhm.
just be strong or just be flexible or just be fast. You've got to find a balance, and ideally
Absolutely.
find ways to train your body to learn all these different types of movements.
Mhm.
It's incredible. And when you're performing at this level, national zonals, you have to have so many different moves in what you could call like a library of movements, which you have
Mhm.
to have, and climbers have to learn more and more, and so that really falls down to route setting, different movements that we learn, and the route setter has a really big job in these competitions, because the responsibility of the route setter is to, so when people register for competitions, route setters actually look at who are the people who've registered, and on some level they know them on a personal level. They know their body dimensions, what their heights are,
Yeah.
what their climbing
So they
styles
take into
are,
account all of the
all of these things. Yeah, and
competitors.
it usually is that the route setters know who are coming to the competition. They know
Mhm.
who the strongest climbers are, so they don't want to set a route which would too well suit one climber.
Okay.
So ideally they want to set a route which will be challenging for everyone. So they've got to kind of understand the level of the climbers, understand like the different heights
Mhm.
of the climbers, because you don't want to put somebody at a disadvantage. So route setting is definitely not an easy task when it comes to this, hauling yourself up and down the wall,
Yeah.
carrying huge holes.
And I think height is a big thing in climbing.
Yeah, height.
And
definitely.
there's definitely technique that you can get around
Yeah,
for like
yeah.
even shorter climbers. I relate to shorter climbers because I
Yeah.
am a very small person myself.
Yeah. So shorter climbers tend to get their legs up higher a lot easier. I think like taller climbers really struggle with getting their legs up high,
Yeah.
but then they do compensate for that by just being able to reach really
Just
far.
reach.
Yeah.
It's not annoying, but like whenever I'm at the gym and I'm
Yeah,
training.
it's like
And-
short climbers really
Yeah.
struggling on something. Then some tall guy comes in and he just reaches.
or they're like,
next hole.
just reach. And that's their like
That's
tip for you.
yeah. A climbing terminology which we can address is beta.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see a route, and you call it a problem.
Yeah.
You call it so, and the solution of that is the beta. So when climbers are discussing and observing the route, they are discussing beta. Beta is like, and there could be multiple different betas to climb one thing,
Mhm.
and that's also another beautiful part of climbing. There are multiple ways to do one thing, and it's up to each climber to figure out how to do that.
Okay. That's beautiful though.
Yeah.
And they help each other out.
Yeah.
So profound.
Yeah. So right now we're just waiting for the women's finals to start. The observation period is over. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about your climbing journey. When did you start?
I started climbing, maybe it's been 3 years ago now.
Okay.
It was after
You're
I
so strong for like a. I thought you'd been climbing for a lot longer than 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy it, and I do it a lot, so
Mhm.
that's a big part of it. And generally, I do like to move around and use my body a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that plays a big role in it. But definitely climbing, how much time you're willing to put in it, or you are able to, because not everyone is able to
Mhm.
give that amount of time to it. I think that makes a big difference. And I think what's made a huge difference for me is meeting and climbing with a variety of really strong people. And that's
Yes.
one of the really beautiful things in climbing is today I go to a climbing gym, and I can meet the country's best climbers. I can
Mhm.
have conversations with them. I can take advice with them. They even give me routes. So there is a lot of humbleness in climbing,
Absolutely.
and that's why it is so easy. I feel like to be able to get stronger when you have all these people
Mhm.
who you can
Such a
surround yourself
communal
with.
sport.
Yeah. And I think another thing that's made a big difference for me is going to a variety of climbing spaces. Because, like we were talking about route setting earlier,
Yeah.
right? Different gyms have different route setters. So, you will be forced to explore a wider variety of
Mhm.
movements. And the more movements you can explore, the easier it becomes. The more you can learn. Because it is very much like a lot of learning and skill building has to
Yeah.
happen.
Do you go
Yeah.
to a lot of gyms in Bangalore itself?
I do, and Bangalore actually has a good number of gyms now. I mean,
Mhm.
when most of these climbers started out, there was just this one wall, Kantirava Stadium,
Yes. Yeah.
which was a lead or a top rope wall. And bouldering didn't even exist as a concept back then in Bangalore.
Mhm.
So what these guys used to do for bouldering was they used to make up routes using the holes on the lower part of the Kantirava.
Oh my God,
roped wall.
yeah. And here they are now. I think
Yeah.
Bangalore as a climbing community has also like progressed so much.
Definitely,
The
it's
last
it's
decade.
growing a lot, and
Mhm.
throughout India now there are so many climbing gyms.
Absolutely.
you
I
know.
think a lot of the men in the lead and bouldering finals, they train at this place called Boulder Box in Delhi,
Yeah.
which they can't stop talking about. Like they've just been going
Yeah,
on and
it's
on
it's
about
an
it.
incredible facility
Uh-huh.
for sure.
I think like a lot of the world, I mean not the world, but maybe the world one day,
Yeah.
India's strongest climbers and route setters, they all work there, don't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know some of
It's
them?
just a fantastic place. It has a bunch of really experienced climbers
Mhm.
who are setting. So climbers who go there get the opportunity to climb like a wide variety of routes and some like I think the way the wall has been designed is so incredible as
Yeah.
well, like because
But
that's
it's
a big
not
part
just
of
for
it.
like pro climbers. Even beginners
Yeah,
can
yeah,
just go
definitely. And
there. It'll be a
they
great
have
place for
like
them.
they have strengthening classes, like
Mhm.
if you want to get stronger in your climbing and you find it harder to structure your training yourself,
Yeah.
you can get a coach and you can go
Mhm.
under someone, and it helps a lot, it
Absolutely.
really
And like
does.
we were talking about mobility before, they
Yeah,
offer
yeah.
yoga lessons as well. They have kids classes. They have a lot of things. Aerial art as well.
I'm pretty sure they have a cafe and a
Yes,
working space as
I am
well.
someone who just likes to hang out around climbers. So I feel like they have a library first of all,
Oh, yeah?
and they have a cafe. You can just lounge there.
Yeah.
When you're not climbing, you can stare at people. You can be that artsy, mysterious person.
Yeah. And what's so great is it's located in Delhi, right? And Delhi, we all
Mhm.
know what it's known for, its air quality. And Boulder Box actually has a air purification system
They
in there.
do, yeah.
So
So not
it's-
only does Boulder Box make you a strong climber, it just heals you from the inside,
Yeah.
I would say. So if you'd like to know more, you can go visit boulderbox.in. And if you're visiting Delhi or like you're planning a visit, you should definitely go check out Boulder Box. It's a great climbing facility,
definitely, yeah,
which we can vouch for.
yeah.
Janvi Matoria.
So if you've just tuned in, we are currently watching the sub-junior girls, and the women's lead final is just about to start very soon.
Yes, I am Lani, and beside me is Nikhil.
Hi.
I am not that. I love climbing a lot, but I feel like you are the resident expert. So I'm just gonna be asking you a bunch of questions.
Sure. The good thing about climbing is, it's like so it can be very subjective also at times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the sub juniors is happening on the wall on the right, and when we move over to the wall on the left, you guys might notice that it is a lot steeper. The middle section might be around 30 degrees. Then the middle half is around 45 degrees, and then it eases out to maybe a 20-degree towards the top.
It is quite steep.
So the climbers are really going to have to figure out how to pace their climb,
Mhm.
where they want to expend the most amount of energy, because you don't want to waste your energy in the beginning. And
No, I was talking to some of the route setters, and they were saying that lead routes are particularly designed to like for the first part, because you need so much confidence going into lead.
yeah,
The first part is designed to like make you less confident.
yeah,
So like just so many holes.
just throw you off.
Yeah, where are you gonna go? You don't know. And then the second half of it, where it's like more of an incline, that's
Yeah.
supposed to just pump you out, so just
Yeah.
tire you out very, very quickly. And yeah, it's just tests.
Yeah, so the climbers have to
Everything.
try their best to not get pumped out and try their best to reach as high as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So one other thing, right? Each and every route, whether it's a boulder problem or a lead route, has something we call a crux, and the crux would be what you would call basically the hardest part of any route.
Absolutely.
So we can speculate what that might be, but I think once the women are on the wall, we'll get a really good idea of where people are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And we have our first climber, Janvi.
Strong start from Janvi.
Yeah, so she's got to clip her first quick draw, and she has begun crossing over.
The crowd is slowly building as well. There's quite a lot of people here in the stadium today.
So Janvi just cruising through this easy section of the climb, looking pretty comfortable.
She looks so confident.
Yeah.
So the first climber is when we all get to know where the crux is, which
Using
parts are
her-
easy.
Using her feet well.
And she's made it
Yeah.
up with
Now
very little
she's
effort.
So she's reaching the steep part of the wall now.
Mhm.
This is where the challenge starts. So far she's paced herself out pretty well.
She has. And these are not easy holes, though. Some of the ones that she's grabbing onto are like finger
Yeah.
pockets.
So these look like pinches. So you can see her thumb closing towards the bottom.
Yeah.
So Janvi just taking a small little rest here.
How important is it to know when to take a break during
It is
lead?
absolutely vital in lead,
Uh-huh.
you know, because that so
Oh,
Janvi
she's
falls
fallen off.
on. She's not able to. Looks like she started to get pumped a little bit.
Which is again
So-
the importance of pacing.
Yeah. So our first climber falls just at the beginning of the steep part of the climb.
But how do you know when to take a rest?
So one big thing is you look at where the hardest moves are, and usually route setters do set specific areas where climbers can rest in, where there is either a bigger hold or really good feet. So climbers have to know before a crux section they ideally want a little rest, because you want to be as rested as possible when you're going for the hardest
Yes.
parts of the climb.
I remember watching the men's qualification, and some of our climbers were resting in very precarious positions.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes they're forced into it, aren't they?
Yeah, so
just have to.
it's all about how you use your feet, how you can place your body, in a weird space so that you can basically take as much weight off of your hands as possible, because that's where you're getting the most tired, right? It's your fingers, it's your forearms, and that's what climbers. So how climbers actually rest is you want to have one hand on the hold and one hand you want to shake it out. So you want to try and shake out that lactic
Yep.
acid, and so you got to keep it below your heart so that blood flow. So they have to keep it below them and shake it out, and that helps relieve some of the what we call pump.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That was like a lactic acid buildup.
yeah. So one interesting thing about your fingers and your forearms, there are actually no muscles in the fingers themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So your fingers and your hands are all tendons, and those tendons actually connect to the muscles in the forearm.
Okay.
So climbers usually, I mean, we all know they have huge forearms because it's a very, it can be, I mean, the harder levels you go at, it becomes a very finger intensive sport. So the strength of your fingers is very important in climbing. So Jayati showing up next. Looks like her fingers are taped up quite a bit. So
Also, it's very, very chalked
yeah,
up.
so for those of you who are wondering what the white powder she's using is, that's chalk actually, and so based on the
Very important
yeah,
aspect
and
of
this
climbing.
is why the conditions which you're climbing in make such a huge difference, because if it's very humid, you're gonna find that the holes feel a lot slippery, and chalk helps in that. Chalk helps you find more friction on the wall. Yeah, so Jayati has 40 seconds before she starts the route
Okay.
to observe.
And she has 6 minutes to complete the route,
Yeah.
right?
So Jayati starting off in the easy section, looking smooth. So Jayati mostly trains and climbs at a gym called Elevate, one of the many gyms of Bangalore. She's been climbing for around 12, 13 years, so she has no lack of experience,
Okay.
definitely.
You mentioned Elevate.
Yeah.
Pratiksha, who is the co-owner of Elevate, will actually be joining me on the commentary box later on.
Yeah, for
This
the
evening.
men's lead
Yes.
finals. And Pratiksha is one interesting thing is she's actually the previous national champion, and so she actually has there's this thing called a wild card where women a climber can go directly to the nationals without competing in the
She had an
South
injury,
zoners.
didn't she?
yeah. So she had a elbow injury, and because of that, Pratiksha did get a wild card to go straight to the finals. So yeah, there's just a small technical difficulty here. We're getting the stream back, but Jayati's looking strong on the wall. She's on the steep section of the wall.
She's
so here's
reached.
Jayati looking strong so
Yeah.
far. Doesn't look like she's getting pumped out just as yet. using her
She's
feet,
going
her
strong.
hips well.
That was a little mini rest right there. Saw her shaking her hand
So you
out.
can see her, yeah, even in between moves, she's trying to maximize her rest by getting those little shakes, and it does make a huge difference.
Looking strong.
Yeah, Jaiti is just nearing the top section. Doesn't look like she's hit the crux as of yet.
There is another third section that we can't quite see yet, which is a little bit less of an incline. But because it's so far up, she's going to be pretty tired at this point.
Yeah. So far looking like she's not tired. Oh!
Ooh.
So Jaiti falls right there. Looks like she was getting pumped. But that is Jaiti is currently in first place with that performance.
She is.
So we'll have to see how the other women perform. But so you can see that she's quite pumped.
She looks exhausted.
Yeah.
Up next, we have Kavya N. She actually trains in the same gym that I go to.
Yeah, Kavya's a well-known face
She
in
is.
Equilibrium. Definitely.
She also works there. She's an instructor there.
She works there, and she is a friendly, smiling face for any new or old climber who walks into the
Absolutely.
gym.
She's been there since like the day that I started climbing, and I feel like we are very good friends now.
Yeah.
That makes me happy.
Yeah, always supportive, always there. So let's see what Kavya has to offer for us today.
This is our first ever competition, by
Our
the
first
way.
ever
Yeah.
nationals. Yeah, yeah.
We have a range of like very, very experienced climbers, and then people who are just starting out in the competition
Yeah.
business, shall we call it?
So some of the younger climbers are actually the more experienced climbers. You know, Janvi, Jaiti, they've only just entered the women's category, but they have been
Yeah.
climbing for a long time.
But they've done competitions before,
Yeah,
haven't they?
yeah,
So they're very
definitely.
well rehearsed with
And I
the
think
whole
climbing
process.
has changed a lot, you know, since then. The
Mhm.
facilities that we have, even now, it is still harder to train lead over here because we have this facility, of course, Yavnika, and we have Kantirva, but most of the facilities we have are bouldering gyms, so it becomes harder for climbers to train endurance because these bouldering gyms have, like, you know, they change their routes very frequently. So what we don't have yet is a lead gym, like a gym which has a lot of facilities for lead climbing. So, and you guys will see tomorrow as well, there is another discipline of apart from lead and bouldering called speed climbing, and that is
I
a
can't
very
wait for
interesting-
that.
Yeah. That's going to be fun. So Kavya just walking in now.
Coming out of isolation. Have you ever been in isolation as
Yeah,
a competitor
so
yourself?
So what
What is
happens
that
is, ideally, right, when you reach the venue, you don't get to see the route until observation. So isolation ensures that you are in this enclosed space with your fellow climbers, you know.
Yes.
And I think the biggest thing in isolation is the nerves, you know, of waiting. And usually what happens is you can hear how well the climber has done by the response of the crowd. So, you know, climbers have to listen closely.
Absolutely. Just like Kavya's on her way
Yeah,
now.
Kavya started. She's
And the
looking-
crowd is hyping her up. And I feel like, would that make people inside nervous, or would that make them a little bit more calm?
You know, it all boils down to the person in the end, you know, how you're feeling. Some people might feel that the route is a little bit easier if they're hearing a lot of positive response from the crowd. Some people might feel that they know that the other person has done well.
Yes, because if you can hear that
Yeah.
somebody's flashed
Yeah,
or like has made it all the way to the top,
yeah, yeah.
you're like, oh no, the pressure. Or, oh god, it must be easy.
Yeah.
It could go either way. Kavya
So
looking
Kavya's
strong on her first ever competition.
Using her feet well. She's got a clip now.
So tell me more about clipping.
Clipping
Do you have to
actually.
do it in order? Is that a
Yeah.
safety thing? Is that like a rule?
So
What is
there
it?
is actually a direction in which you clip the rope as well, and if you clip it up wrong as you go higher, and I would know because I consider myself more of a boulderer, so clipping is actually a skill, you know, how and
Oh.
Kavya falls. Kavya falls below Janvi, so Kavya is currently in
Great
third. We
effort
have
though.
Janvi in second and Jaiti in first, with another 4 women to go. Yeah, but clipping is something that lead climbers have to actively practice. I mean, they do get the practice when they climb, but how efficiently you clip will make a difference. Obviously, if
Absolutely.
you're experienced, it's not going to be
Especially
a
if you
big
take
deal.
longer.
Yeah,
That's like
yeah,
more
definitely.
strength wasted.
Yeah. So where you clip from, right? Clipping from the right
The
place
next
is also
climber in
important.
women's category is Lakshmi Matangi, bib number 96.
As the MCs have just announced, next up is Lakshmi.
Lakshmi, I remember on my first trip to Badami, which is a sport climbing area in South India. I remember seeing Lakshmi, this tiny little girl who's absolutely crushing some hard routes in Badami, you know. And
Kids
she's
have a way of just like humbling you entirely, don't they?
yeah, and she's come a long way from then, you know. It's not easy, like, you know, for a lot of these girls to balance climbing with, especially when you are at this stage of your life where you have to start studying a lot
Focus on
more.
academics,
You
yeah.
have to focus about your future academically. So, yeah, so finding that balance is definitely a challenge for a lot of these climbers out there. Because climbing so far, it is difficult for a climber to sustain themselves, you know.
Absolutely.
I would say climbing is still at a nascent stage, even though we are at the cusp of probably climbing really expanding a lot in the next couple of years. The climbers who have been climbing for a long time know how hard it's been for them, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So there we see Lakshmi getting ready for her climb.
She's just come out of isolation. She's looking pretty strong and like confident.
Definitely, yeah.
The next climber is Sudarshana BR from Karnataka.
I actually haven't seen anybody look nervous walking up. They've all looked very sure of themselves.
Yeah, I think they're all, you know, whatever happens, happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a big part of it is that people do enjoy competing. You know, it
They
is a lot
do.
of fun. The whole concept of, you know, you have this one chance and you have to give it everything.
Absolutely.
Your mental state, it makes such a big difference, and it is a challenge.
Arohi K. says
So
from
today,
Uttarakhand.
out of our 8 finalists, only 3 will make it on to the nationals.
Yeah, yeah.
So the stakes are high.
And the nationals actually happening in Bangalore too, so you will see the same wall for the nationals as well.
Mm-hmm.
Lakshmi now moving up the route. So far, so good. Reaching into the pockets.
Those are hard. That's a 1-finger pocket.
Yeah, that looks like she's got a 2 fingers in it, I guess. These 2
She's
finger
resting
pockets.
on
so
that.
Yeah. A good sign.
But
So-
all of our finalists, I think, they're gonna have a ball when the nationals actually come around, performing to like their
Definitely,
home crowd.
definitely. And I think there's going to be a lot of training before involved, you know, for whoever does make it through. Lakshmi now reaching the steeper section of the wall.
You
So
can
this
see
is
how
where
much
we saw
more it
Janvi
takes out
fall.
of them when they,
Yeah,
as soon as they
yeah.
hit that
You-
angle.
You can see. So she wants to keep her hips as close to the wall, especially in the steeper parts.
Mm-hmm. She has a bit of a knee bar going on there.
There. So now she's going to want to clip before she goes higher. So you can see Lakshmi just some hesitation coming into her movement. The moves are getting a little harder. So she's reaching up to clip. It's like she's got that clip in.
And she's made
So
it.
she's now gone past Janvi's high point. Yeah. So you could tell at
Not
that
quite.
point, you know, she had kind of lost the pulling power in her
Her moves
arms.
are getting a little bit slower.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you can tell from the stream, but that wall, that point that she reached was high.
Yeah, yeah. So she's now in second place. She's gone just above Janvi. So now we have 2 women left to climb.
3 women.
3 women.
Mm-hmm. We have Purvi, Sonali, and Sunita.
Purvi and Jayati actually started climbing
The
together
next
around
climber
12, 13 years
in
ago.
women's category, Purvi Raj Purohit.
So these were
Bib
all, you know,
number
back in the
68.
day, these little toddlers running around, climbing in Kantirva Stadium, getting coached by.
Next
Yeah.
climber is Surya.
So Purvi just getting ready, getting tied up.
Food 7:45 minutes. You guys need a break. Just
So you can see there is the black mat below the wall.
Yeah.
That's there just in case climbers fall before they're able to before they're able to clip their first quick draw. If they fall, they want to fall on the crash pad. So that's for safety. So you'll see probably in bouldering tomorrow in the finals that in bouldering there are no ropes at all. So when
No,
climbers
yeah.
fall, they fall entirely on the crash pad.
Yes, and bouldering rules are a little bit more different than climbing.
Yeah,
I mean, lead climbing. For example, they have 4 minutes on the clock.
Yeah,
To
and they can
complete
take
the
as
route.
many attempts as
Exactly.
they want. Yeah.
As many attempts, and points are rewarded based on how far they go and if they top the route.
Yeah,
Right?
and so what also comes into play is the number of attempts.
Mhm.
So a flash, which is doing it on the first go, does get you more points and the more number of attempts you take.
Mhm.
So they compare tops.
Purvi walking on very confidently.
Chalking up.
Again, she has 40 seconds before she has to start the route, and she's off.
So Purvi starting off, getting into the first section. So there's actually a small little chip on that volume, which I guess you can't see very well on the camera.
On the lower side of that volume,
Yeah.
yeah.
Getting into the cross move now. There she is clipping on the pockets. So
Going through these very quickly.
yeah, so judging from this first section, most of the women have cruised through it, so I don't think it's been much of a challenge for them.
I think the crux is once that angle comes in.
Yeah. So starting from now, these pinches are definitely, they're not easy.
Mm-hmm. You can see the moves start to get a little bit more uncertain
Yeah.
as she reaches this point.
Now she wants to get up onto the volume with her right hand. Yeah, she's got it. And there are chips both drilled to the bottom and the top side so that she's able to kind of pinch it with her hands.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like she's hesitating a little bit in her moves. Yeah. So there
Didn't
Purvi
quite
falls
make it.
just around the same point where Janvi falls. So we're going to have to check with the judges to figure out who's actually scored higher. And
Yeah. Talk to us about the importance of chalk. Because it's very
mean,
different from lead and bouldering and speed as well.
Yeah.
Because lead, you have to keep chalking up because you run out of chalk
Yeah.
halfway through your attempt.
So definitely there have been situations where, people have taken chalk bags on boulders as well. But
Mhm.
usually chalk plays a big role in lead. And I feel like as a climber, for me, chalk, it helps you a lot mentally, when you can go
Yeah.
put some chalk on. It's like taking a breather, being able to calm down and think about what you're doing. Just getting your hands in your
Absolutely.
chalk bag allows you to get those few moments to recompose yourself.
Yeah.
So we have Sonali coming up next.
Yes. She has just recovered from a very bad injury. It was an
Yeah.
ACL tear.
I think the past maybe year or two has been a lot of recovering from that ACL injury
Mhm.
for Sonali, and this is going to be her first nationals in quite some time. But Sonali is no stranger, definitely, to the
No.
competition scene.
Very experienced climber, especially in competitions.
Yeah,
She's been climbing for a long time.
and I absolutely love the way she climbs. It's so
It's so
technical, so,
graceful.
flowy. She absolutely loves to use her hips. She's
Absolutely.
a great example of a very technical and flowy
Mhm.
climber.
Again, she trains at the gym that I don't train. I just climb for fun in. And it's so beautiful watching her like just dance along the wall. She doesn't really climb. She just like floats around.
Yeah. And
Especially with an injury. That is hard
yeah.
to manage.
Yeah, managing injuries is one of the greatest challenges of climbing, especially
Mhm.
when you get so hooked onto something, right?
Absolutely.
And it becomes such a big part of your everyday life, and then you have an injury which stops you from doing that. And dealing with the mental struggles that come with injuries is not easy at all.
No.
And I think Sonali's handled it quite well. And it's so good to see her back on the wall, climbing again, feeling
Mhm.
strong again, feeling confident.
She's looking very sure of herself.
So Sonali choosing, and as you can see, all of them have chosen different holes to start.
They have.
So Sonali choosing to go a little bit more towards the left. Yeah, I thought she might have not seen that chip on the right side, but looks like she has. Looking slow and controlled so far.
Yes.
So as you can see, she has a real precision about her footwork. It's a pleasure to watch.
Really is. I don't even want to say anything. I just want to observe.
So readjusting a little bit on that hold, and she swaps her feet to go for the big cross up. So if you'll observe, most of the climbers, they will use their feet in such a way where their hips are always coming as close to the wall as possible. So
I think
when-
Sonali's climbing technique is a good example of this
Yeah,
because it's
it's
always
a wonderful example.
yeah, so controlled, so slow. She's made it to the incline.
Yeah, Sonali reaching the first hard part of the climb and dropping in beautifully to reach that next hold. Shaking out just a little bit.
That was a technique called a drop knee, which I always find so fascinating because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
incredible to see how low a knee can go.
Yeah. And it really lets you again get your hips close enough to the wall that it's all about, somehow taking as much weight off of your fingers as possible.
Yeah.
Because your fingers are, you could say, the weakest link, because otherwise you have large muscles in your legs. And so Sonali really, she looks like she's getting a little pumped here.
Yeah.
She's taking a good rest, shaking it off.
She has such a good attitude about it as well.
So Sonali just, I guess, accidentally placed her leg on the men's route.
Beautiful
So-
attempt by
So
Sonali.
Sonali looks like she got pumped there and she had to let go. Yeah, you can see her, her forearms look like the way she's holding her hands and shaking them out. She looks pumped for sure. But yeah,
She looks happy about her
looks
attempt.
like she enjoyed her climb.
Yeah.
Category is Sunita N.
So
Bid
the
number 102.
So the last climber coming in now.
Sunita. This is the women's lead finals. It's been quite a round, I think.
Yeah, so looks like so far we have Jayati in the top position. I think the second and third, there are the contenders between, Janvi,
Sonali and
Sonali and Purvi.
Purvi, yeah.
So let's see how Sunita does. So we're just waiting for her to tie up. And we are currently seeing the sub-junior boys. And as you can see, there is no clipping required for them. Because in the younger categories, they're climbing on a top rope basically. There's an anchor on top. And their main goal is to reach the top of the route. And clipping is not one of the judging factors for them. So we're still waiting for Sunita. And she's making her way up to the route. Yeah, there we see Sunita. Just finished her 40 seconds of observation, getting on the route.
Very confident climbers. I don't think I've seen like a single person who's like looked unsure of themselves.
Yeah.
It's so good to see. Again, she's chosen different starting holes, different holes to get up.
Yeah, so like you said, they've, just put a bunch of holes there, maybe to confuse them, throw them off, have them think a little bit in the beginning of their route. 'Cause
Next climber is Sushant from Tamil Nadu.
Everyone seems to be breezing through this part.
yeah,
It's
this
just the
looks to
next
be
part
the
that is
easier part.
the crux of the route, as you called it.
There she is clipping. So Sunita looking like she's getting just a little bit pumped. So interesting fact about Sunita, she's actually a para climber. So she actually has competed internationally in the
That's amazing,
Para-climbing,
yeah.
and interesting fact, the only gold medal that India has ever won in climbing is from a para climber called Mani.
Mhm.
So
Yes, you were telling me about
Yeah,
Money earlier
yeah.
on. He runs his own gym in Bangalore,
yeah,
doesn't he?
Bangalore Boulder.
She has reached
So Sunita looking
what we are
strong
calling the
so
crux
far.
of the route.
You know, climbers have so many so she's having some struggle
Mhm.
clipping in over there. So some climbers just have this style where, you know, it might look like they're falling, but they seem to push further and further.
Absolutely.
So it's so interesting to see different styles. Sunita here might look like she's struggling, but she's managing to make her way up. She's getting a little pumped here.
And you would, it's so far up the wall.
Having some trouble clipping in.
She's made it to
But-
the next hold.
And she falls. I think that was the same point where one of our other climbers fell.
It was.
So that was the last climber actually. And now we're going to have to wait and see what the results are. But I think we can pretty confidently say that Jayati is in first place.
Absolutely.
And she has secured her way to the nationals. So
Uh-huh.
congratulations, Jayati.
All right, we are live streaming the men's lead finals in just a bit at 1 p.m.
Yeah.
We will see you there. This was the women's lead finals here at the South Zone Climbing Competition 2023. I am Lani. I have my host Nikhil with me. Thank you for joining us, man.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
From Karnataka, sub-junior.